All right, everyone, we are back for a Certain Point of View, episode number 3. I am Jake Berlin, your host, and I am joined today by Brian Avolicino, and we are here to be breaking down the Schmoedown of the week. And yes, we did miss last week, and we apologize. A lot of that is to blame for me because things are happening. But we are here to talk a number of good things going on in the world of Schmoedown, and we're going to get right to it because we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do.
The way the show is going to work a little bit, we're going to go through segments like we have in the past couple shows. We have some breaking news, some updates on the league, maybe some name changes, maybe some trades, maybe some revelations as far as the game go. And then we're going to be getting into our match discussions, and we're going to be talking about 2 specific matches today, and that is Paul and Tom versus Deep 13 and Somerville versus Sheridan, the 2 previous matches that happened. And then we're going to be moving on to our league update, which is points and previewing upcoming matches. And so, like I said, a lot to talk about and not a lot of time to do it. No. So let's go ahead and get started with the trade that just happened this weekend. A pretty big trade because it came directly after a certain match that happened that we're going to be talking about. Brian, why don't you break down what happened in the Schmoedown?
So this kind of, although it's new, it kind of stems a little bit back from couple weeks before. We know that Video Drew originally was on the Burning Droogs, and Claudia Dolph ended up, she was originally on Dungeon. So what we're getting at was, in the beginning, Video Drew and the Dungeon made a trade. So now that
the Burning Droogs in the Dungeon, correct?
Yeah, the Burning Droogs in the Dungeon. That trade was Video Drew going to the Dungeon for Claudia Dolph. So we had that happen. Then Claudia Dolph went from being on the Burning Droogs to Corruption because of Bonner Somerville's loss to Brett Sheridan and the Queen of Corruption not taking any losers, and sent her to the Burning Droogs for Claudia Dolph. Yeah. So Claudia Dolph has been kind of just jumping around.
She's been a hot topic, man.
She has.
There's a lot of aspects to this trade.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first big one is that Shannon Barney once again shows that she's taking no prisoners. No. That she's here to make a statement. That she's here for business. And she put out this message, and she stayed classic Queen of Corruption with her message, and basically said, I'm cutting losers. Yep. Bonnie lost. She didn't cut it. I'm cutting her, so I traded her butt. And so, unfortunately for Bonnie, she kind of gets to lose the loss of the bad end of the stick, I should say. Yeah. Because I would much rather, personally, if I was competing, be on Corruption than the Burning Droogs, in my opinion. And Claudia Dolph goes from someone who was with Kaiser, who's a good manager, right? On the Dungeon, who's going to compete. Then she kind of gets dumped onto the Burning Droogs. But then she gets picked right back up onto Corruption, which is a big deal. And Christian has said multiple times to look out for this girl in the Schmoedown. Yeah. And we don't know much about her because we haven't seen her. But it's very interesting because, I mean, the biggest thing to come from it is that, Shannon Barney once again shows that, I am who I am. I'm going to do what I want. And if you don't do what I want you to do, or if you don't win, you're gone.
Yeah. Someone, in my opinion, someone like Bonnie never really was going to last on Corruption. Bonnie,
high standards.
Yeah, Bonnie only brought in 10 points. She didn't seem like she was really like invested into it, which if you're going to be on Corruption, you kind of need to be invested in it. Personally, when I was watching this, I kind of felt that Shannon Barney was probably a little bit annoyed with this was her debut as a manager. And we know it wasn't going to be like the most serious match of all time, but you want to go out and take a W and make a statement, at least in some capacity. This was not the way that you want Corruption to start out at.
Totally.
Her statement may not have been to win, but the statement was the literal statement that she said, goodbye, I'm only going to have winners. And I mean, this is where we're at.
I definitely agree with you, but I will also just kind of play devil advocate a little bit. When you draft Bonner Somerville, you kind of have to know what you're going to get with it.
Yeah.
Like she obviously knows her knowledge, but she's not going to be a consistent player. Like,
to be fair though, she was drafted 8th, so she's
I understand that.
pretty low.
Look, I totally understand that. But if you're drafted 8th, you're not going to get a Mike Kalinowski. You're not going to get a Chance Ellison, right? You're not going to get those type of players. So you kind of have to know what you're getting with a Bonnie Somerville, someone who she knows what she knows. She's proven before that she knows knowledge, or she has knowledge, excuse me. But there's going to be times where she stumbles a little bit. There's going to be times where maybe she's too busy to do a match because she's a working actress, and you know, there's the ongoing joke of she doesn't show up, and so I understand the trade, like. Shannon's playing into the character. That's who she is as a manager. Yeah. She's going to do this because that's what corruption does. Like, that's who they are, and that's why she's the perfect manager for this faction. Yeah. But I just want to point out that you have to understand who you're getting when you draft someone like Bonnie Somerville.
But, I mean, to be fair, like, this is a smart move. Like,
Robert Meyer Burnett has lost 2 trades this year so far.
Okay, here's my thing. I love Robert Meyer Burnett. He makes me laugh. He is hilarious. You don't need to say yes to every single trade.
Well, here's the funny thing. What if he's putting these trades out himself? What if he came for Bonnie Somerville and Shannon's just playing it off like it's her move?
Yeah,
There's also that side of it. I doubt that's happening, but...
I understand, like, he has great ideas... But there's 90% of the time you're going, what? What is he? Wait, why did he do that? Mm-hmm. And I feel like at this point, like, it's almost starting to look like anytime anyone wants to offer Robert Burnett a trade, he's going to say yes.
Yep.
And you need to stop, because now you're starting to make yourself look questionable with your team, because we don't know anything about Claudia Dolph, but we know from what we've heard she's going to be at the very least,
if she gets into the game, she'll be a competitor.
So I mean, at the very least, she'll be a decent competitor. That could come back. I mean, you traded away Video Drew. Mm-hmm. You traded. Now Claudia Dolph's been on 3 teams and hasn't even had a match yet.
Ever.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's also the side of the fact that we question this trade from Burnett, because outside of Deep 13, which we'll get to in a little bit, how well they're performing at the moment and how good they do look, and outside of Ethan Irwin, his team is questionable.
Yeah.
His team is very questionable. Like James White, he took 2nd overall for his team in the 2nd round, and we've heard good things about him, but we don't know a lot because we haven't seen him yet as far as the Schmoedown goes. We've heard good things about Warfather. We'll see what happens with him. Justin Kroll knows his stuff because he's a breaker of news, and so he's going to know a lot of things. Jenna Bush and Josh Quevedo don't really know a whole lot about. So right now his team isn't that strong from what we see on the outside. Yeah. They very well may perform well, but as far as we know, it's not very strong. You trade away Video Drew to begin with. Okay, someone who could have easily added something to your team. Yeah. You made Kaiser stronger, and you get Claudia Dolph in return, which, from what we heard, great player.
Yeah.
Then you trade that person away for someone who has underperformed so far and has a reputation of not showing up, which is a big deal, essentially making that person a 50% player and dwindling your team even more.
Yeah.
He's making very questionable decisions, and for all we know, he could have this master plan. Who knows with Robert Meyer Burnett? We have no clue. But at the moment, from the outside, it looks like he's making very, very dumb decisions.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing for me to understand is, like, I'm looking at our sheets, and you have a good handful of every single team has people with stats.
There's a good core.
Yeah, you've got like a stats. You know kind of where these players stand. With his, it's a lot of empties.
Well, and Winnie Seibold and Alonso Dorado at the moment, like Alonso Dorado, he's a teams guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't do singles. Winnie Seibold has done singles in the past. which means he'll probably do them again. But right now, he's kind of thriving in teams with Alonso.
Especially,
Really, your only singles guy at the moment is Ethan Irwin. James White's going to compete, but we don't know what we're going to see from him. That's a scary core to go off of.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to win a belt with Bonner Somerville. No, I'm sorry. It's not. It's not.
You're not.
So, and then you've got almost 4 other people where you don't know really anything about
and maybe he's done his homework, and that's different from us because we're on an outside perspective, but it's really
it leaves you scratching your head. And it's funny because every single time you see Christian's post there's been a trade, you're like, ooh, who's it gonna be? And it always is his team. So it's just like you're kind of just like, what is he going for? Like, what is the goal? But I mean, that
who
deep
knows
13
who knows if he has a master plan?
Yeah, I'm sure in his mind he has a master plan, but if it's to win teams, I mean, that's our next topic. And
let's go into like the trade. The trade is the trade. We'll see how it ends up. You know, if Bonnie competes. I mean, look, Christian said from the very beginning that even though you're part of the faction, part of the team, there's a chance that some players may not even get matches because there's so many competitors.
Yeah.
And major matches take precedence, obviously, for certain reasons because those people are competing in for titles or tournaments or whatever
people
it may
know
be.
You.
Exactly. And so Robert Meyer Burnett may have just gotten a player who doesn't compete the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And in a system that's all about points, that's a big thing to give up. And so but yes, let's get to the team matches and the match discussions. The team that could look like it's gonna win Burnett a bunch of points this year, a bunch of matches. That is the Paul and Tom versus Deep 13 team. Before we get to the match a little bit, our pre-match expectations, I think both of us had said that we expected Paul and Tom to win.
Yeah.
On paper, they were the more popular team, more powerful looking team. They just looked a little bit better as far as movie knowledge goes.
Well, they were proven. I mean, Tom hadn't dropped more than 4 questions, and Paul's Paul Preston. He's the powder king. Exactly.
So he's one of the guys to look out for this year for sure. And so we expected that, but we had said, or maybe it was just me who said that to not count out Alonso Duralde and Whitney Seibel because they had both proven themselves before.
Yeah.
But it all depends on how the game treated them as far as categories and certain questions, and the game treated them with categories and certain questions because I'm not going to say they demolished Paul and Tom, but they beat them pretty good as far as the game goes, and they showed that they should be a team to be worried about.
Yeah. I mean, they did fall. Paul and Tom did fall into their own trap of giving them.
Well, and Kate has come out on record and said that was a decision by all of them, and she gave that explanation after the match of like, if we gave it to them, it couldn't land on us.
Yeah.
But you also need to do your homework about strengths and weaknesses, and clearly that was Alonso's strength.
Yeah, and I mean, you make mistakes. Mistakes can come back to bite you in the butt, and in this case, it did. I mean, if it was not his strength, we would probably be seeing a different outcome.
Yes.
So I mean, it's pure luck and chance for the most part. Especially if you don't know fully what someone's strength or weakness is, and this just happened to be the catalyst that helped push them towards this win. But with or without that category, this was a high scoring game.
D13 broke the team's record
36.
for points.
I thought they tied it.
Maybe it was a tie.
I think it was tied.
Yeah.
36 points versus the 33 points is a freaking lot of points. Mm-hmm. And they didn't even answer that last question.
You are correct.
So if we
could have seen a 40-point breaker.
Exactly. So with or without the wheel, granted, the wheel gave them a good chunk of points. It was going to be a high scoring
if I'm not
match.
mistaken, after the first round, it was 15-16.
Yeah,
and it was a very, and both Paul and Whitney both had perfect rounds.
Yeah,
and that, I mean, they started off hot, and the match was a hype from the get go, and it definitely lived up the hype. We had mentioned it was Festival Darlings that they gave them was the category,
Darlings.
And then Paul and Tom landed on Opponent's Choice, which kind of put them in a little bit of a hole as well. Yeah, I mean, look, as far as we get to the turning point of the match, it's clearly the Festival Darlings move.
Yeah.
They took time on it, and they just happened to choose the wrong category. And Alonso he said after the match, I've done it for the past 30 years. I'm a festival coordinator. Like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And
simple mistake.
It led into their favor. And so, but that's nothing to take away from Deep 13 because Whitney has played with Bibiani in the past. You know, he clearly knows the game. He's playing for a long time. He knows his stuff. And Alonso was paired with Matt Atchity, and they had their run with Paddington too, and they clearly know their stuff. But the thing with them is that they complement each other very well. They know different things, and they know when this person needs to take this category or this question, and that plays heavily in the team's match.
Absolutely.
And they clearly show with their point total.
And I feel like we're on the hate Robert Meyer Burnett squad right now, but he wasn't there.
That storyline is going to be very interesting.
Exactly. And there were some undertoned digs that seemed to be coming up for the fact that he wasn't there. Now, could it have been different by him being there? He does tend to take a bit away of your spotlight, and maybe that messes with you. It was strictly them two playing extremely well off of each other. And I mean, to be honest, like the way they were playing, I have a hard time thinking of any of those wheel categories where they wouldn't have just like at least come out.
They're very well rounded. They're very well rounded.
And that's, I think, going to be something that is going to be an extreme strength for them, because there are very few teams that complement each other as well as those two do, as far as strength, weakness. Off the top of my head right away, like Shazam is like one of those only other teams where it's like your weakness is my strength, your strength is my weakness type stuff.
Founding Fathers is in that category as well.
I mean, there's
the top tier teams do that.
Yeah, and seeing how they played, they could find themselves easily in a top tier team.
Especially if they keep doing well, they're going to be putting more matches.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see the video Robert Meyer Burnett put out on his own YouTube channel?
Oh no.
He put out a video talking about the match and how they won.
Yeah.
Acting like he was there, like, oh, like this was expected, blah blah blah, and essentially like just kind of grazing over the fact that they were giving him shade at the match and kind of trying to be like the manager aspect of it. So that storyline is going to be very interesting going forward to seeing how that plays into it. Yeah, you'll check it out. It's pretty funny. Yeah. It's just like a minute, a rant essentially from RBM about that stuff. So RMB. So, all right, well, let's get to the second match on this.
I will say before we go on, don't sleep on Paul and Tom either.
No, well,
I felt like we hyped up Deep 13, but Paul and Tom.
Let's get to that before we do move on.
Yeah.
The biggest thing going in that we talked about is that if they can work together, because they're such vastly different types of people and players inside the game. And Tom worked so well with Video Drew because they were both just so weird. And then they both were just like that kind of...
They complimented each other.
Yeah, and we saw it in the introduction scene when she's like talking to herself and Tom comes over, he's just standing there. And so that was always the question, is if they can meld or mesh together. And they will, but it's going to take time.
Exactly.
It's they're going to have to figure out how to play each other. Tom is going to have to figure out how to play with Tom or Paul. Paul is going to have to figure out how to kind of corral Tom in and focus like in on his type of play. But I do think they're very similar to Deep 13 in the fact that they complement each other. They have very different strengths. And as they kind of go along, that could be a huge benefit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the first time they've played with each other. Mm-hmm. You're still figuring your partner out. So you don't really know at that point what's going to work. And they landed on opponent's choice. Opponent's choice can be the kiss of death. And that it wasn't the true kiss of death in the sense of where you just wipe yourselves with like a 0 in that whole entire category. But it did hurt them in that case. If it would have landed in one of their strengths, again, we could have seen a different outcome. The wheel literally was the turning point of this match. Well, 100%. There was no doubt about it. That middle second round, it was completely a roll of the dice chance. Yeah. And that's where it fell in. This match literally just came down to luck, almost, in the sense of where the category landed.
Yeah, and these players, whether it's singles or teams, because they're both going to compete in both, these are Kate and Grace's golden children.
Absolutely.
The first 2 picks of their team, Tom went first, Paul went second. So they're going to put whatever they can, whatever kind of resources they can into making them great. And whether it takes time or not, they're going to be there at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Paul went flawless his first round.
And I think
is amazing because that's what usually Tom does. And if Paul's pulling that,
during
they
the team's at the end of the year, the team's tournament, if they get on a groove, this is a team to look out for
Absolutely.
sure. Okay, let's move on to the second match of last week, and that is the Bonner Somerville versus Brett Sheridan match. SEN Live Civil War number 2. And just a little plug, both of our reactions to these matches are up on the channel. Very cool matches to react to. Different outcomes for both of us in the matches are very fun as far as playing the game for both of us. But little pre-match expectations for this one. I mean, we didn't expect it to be a shootout from either of them.
No, we didn't expect 25-26.
Yeah, and we expected a fun, vibrant, kind of just interesting, different type of match for the Schmoedown, and it lived up to that name and that hype. It was the outcome I was hoping for. I wanted Brett to win, and I'm so happy he did. I think it was like just a cool moment for Schmoedown fans in general because he's so popular outside of the game, and he's such a big personality that people love on SEN. Seeing him just score 11 points and beat someone like Bonner Somerville, who's been playing the game for a long time, is a cool thing. But we talked about it today. We put it up on Twitter, but the Yuck Yucks lived up to the name.
Oh God, yeah.
And the trivia, I mean, it was good trivia as well.
Yeah, it was definitely your side-splitting laughter episode, and it was for those two. It was a good match because it wasn't a blowout. It was. Bonnie had an 0-2 record coming in. It was Sheridan's debut. So as far as matchup, they were going into it evenly matched. And the final score came out showing that way, 11-10. So, I mean...
It was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 5-4 after the first round, 8-8 after the second round, and then 11-10 finally.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you weren't looking. This wasn't going to be your juggernaut match. Yeah. You weren't
higher scoring than we thought, though.
It is
Which
true.
Is,
it's sad, but I mean, it was a fun match. It was a nice debut for Sheridan. It helps the Den absolutely,
and we'll get to those points a little bit later on. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean. Bonnie was Bonnie, but like she didn't just come out there and just take it for nothing. She
was definitely competing.
Exactly.
And I think for both of them, more so Bonnie, it's more about learning the game aspect. Like, for example, she used all 3 of her JTEs in the first round.
We had one JTE rule at the end of the first round left between 2 competitors.
So it's definitely more so about learning the game and just understanding, like, okay, I need to take it here. Maybe I need to save it for here. Luckily, both of them understood the multiple choice because a lot of people don't. She had the one flop, I guess you could say, is when she said, I don't know. Like, I like pass or something like that, which I understand that. If you don't know the question, that's fine. Some people don't answer it. But that's where JTE could come in handy.
Absolutely.
And so it's about understanding, like, if you're going to get to a third round, especially when you're playing someone like Brett, save those for later on because, points matter, obviously, but the points in later in the match definitely matter more than the ones in the beginning of the match, especially in a match against someone like that.
If you know you can build your lead in the beginning, then yeah, absolutely. Like, but you need to be building, like, at least a 5 to 10 point lead.
There's definitely a difference between understanding what the question is and knowing it and asking for JT, or just asking for the JT to see if you can come up with it.
Yeah.
You have to understand when to use it properly to whether it's going to matter or not matter.
Yeah, a couple times it was almost just like I was talking and I wasn't paying attention.
Exactly.
Can you just repeat it?
Yes.
And that's going to cost you in the end.
Yes.
But in this type of case where it's sad to say, but like those singular points in the beginning were pretty big and long one for this type of match.
Totally.
But I mean, you're never going to see Bonnie going up against Ethan Irwin.
No, I mean, it was
like that.
A battle of a pick 8 and a pick 9.
Yeah.
So
it's
the match it lived up to.
Yeah.
So.
It's one of those ones where you win, you'll scrape some points out for your team. You're not going to see these ones probably in your tournaments or your title matches, but lower matches do get your team points. And
if players like this are playing, you do have to take it serious.
Absolutely.
Like you do. And I'm not saying Bonnie didn't take it serious, but Brett took it a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
As far as you could tell that it meant a little bit more to him. Just by the response of Bonnie saying, it was only by 1 point. It was only by 1 point.
Yeah.
Like, I understand it's by 1 point, but I mean, I still would have been upset if I lost.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
I get that it's a game and everything, but in a league like this, and that's exactly why Shannon traded her.
Yeah.
It's exactly why Shannon traded her. And so, nothing against her. Like, I think it's everything we expected from both of them. Definitely some softball questions, but it's expected. I think as they both get kind of a little bit more familiar with the game, it'll be a little bit more smoother for both of them.
Well, we'll see with Bonnie now with where she is.
That pairing is going to be very interesting with RBM or RMB and Bonnie. It's going to be very interesting to see how that's handled.
I think it's going to be almost minimal when
I
we
agree
see
too.
it. But Brett, you could see thrown into a new contender person type match.
He could after the way he played. If he kind of gets used to it, there's a number of players on this list. I'm looking at the drafting and how the teams are. The bottom picks, people that don't compete all the time. That he can definitely compete alongside after the way he played this past week.
Yeah, I mean, if you need like a scraper of a match where it's like just a low and low just to get like maybe everyone's busy that week, there might as well. That could be a good chunk of points for your team.
And like round 2 for him, he got Meryl Streep because he landed on opponent's choice and they chose Meryl Streep, and he went to multiple choice and he got a lot of points.
Yeah, absolutely.
He got a lot of points.
And that's the thing. Multiple choice, if it gets you points, it gets you points.
Yeah.
Where to the point where you could win by 1. That's why when people say pass on some of those categories or I don't know, I don't so much have a problem with it if you know that your opponent is probably not knowledgeable in that section, because you're going from maybe them stealing 1 point to 2 points, and 2 points is a lot in a game like this.
Totally.
So,
real quick, on that match, the winner of this match was supposed to play Ben Goddard, but there's a rule that essentially says a faction can deny a match if it's teammate versus teammate because of the points aspect of it. And so we'll see if that happens or not.
We got Kate's little comment at the end that anyone that turns down Christians,
yes, exactly,
tends to be not talked to. Given matches,
but we'll see what happens. I will just say this.
And there was a bet of a date between Bonnie, but isn't that if she won?
I think it was if she won. Yeah. I think I'll just say this: the match that I would love to see after watching this is a Brett Sheridan versus Josh McCouga. I think Makuga knows more.
God.
Makuga knows more, but just in general, like I want to see that match. Like Karloff, if you're listening to this, please make that match happen.
That never crossed my mind.
Now that Makuga he's done filming his show, that's the match I want to see. Makuga versus Sheridan.
Oh man, that never crossed my mind.
Which team is Makuga on? Is he swag? He's swag, correct?
He's swag.
Could you imagine it's Kate versus Winston again with Makuga and Sheridan?
Oh my god! If you want a funny side, I wouldn't count Sheridan out of that match.
No, neither would I.
I would not, because Kate would probably like make him study.
Makuga's been so busy that he can't study. It's all off of just what you know, and that's why I think it'd be a cool match.
Yeah, you got some good ideas there.
We got to see that happen soon.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, well, let's move on to our final part of the show. It's the league update, and we're going to start off with the points here because we just talked about it. And last week, before these last couple matches happened, the Finstock Exchange was tied with the Usual Suspects and the Burning Drews, all in first place with 2 points. But because of the Ben Goddard match, because of Brett Sheridan's match, the Den comes up at first place. And how does that come out, Brian?
So we have the Den right now at first place with 4 points, which it's funny because we were thinking like, dang, Finstock Exchange is going to have a death grip on the league for a while. the Den cleaned up.
Yeah.
So this
They had and if Paula Tom would have won, they would have even cleaned up even more.
Yeah, and
real quick, thank you to the Tobias Bros, T squared on Facebook for the image. You guys have been doing it, clutching up every single week, and it looks awesome.
It does look awesome.
Go to Toby Thrawn's nerd blog, and you guys can see it. Love the graphics and the way it's broken down. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So as of right now, we've got the Den at number 1 with 4 points, 2 wins, 1 loss. We got the Finstock Exchange and the Usual Suspects tied for second place. They're both 1-0, 2 points. The Burning Droogs are in fourth place with 2 points, and that is because they do have a loss. They're 1-1, whereas the other two are 1-0. Corruption and Swag are both with 0 points, but in fifth place because they have played a match at 0-1. The Corky Mercs are at 7th place, 0-2, with 0 points because they've had those 2 matches. And then the Rock Stars and the Dungeon both at essentially 8th and 9th, but only because they haven't played a match. They have not played yet.
So yeah, I mean, look, as of right now, we said it before the season even started. The Den Kate had a really good draft.
Yeah.
We expected them to be here. As the season kind of gets along more and has more teams are playing, we'll definitely see how it shapes out more and kind of how it shakes up. But as of right now, it does look like I expect it to. It's definitely still a little bit of a slow start. We're kind of getting the groove of the season, and we'll see how it shapes up more. But as of right now, I think it's the point system and the factions are working out great. It's changing and it's fun to watch.
It's sport.
It's so cool with the trades and how everything's kind of going, and it's just such a cool time for the Schmoedown because it's just an intense, fun league to be a part of because of everything that's been happening, like cutting players and trading and the managers.
The managers talking.
It's so fun.
I love seeing like a reason for why people are getting traded. Shannon throwing that little quip up there as that, or you have these trades that come out of nowhere, and it's brilliant. It's a sport now.
Yes.
It's an absolute sport.
Yes. All right. Well, that's gonna shift us to our final part of the show, as we're gonna be previewing the matches for the upcoming week, and we have 2 of them this week. Luckily, we have Patreon access to the first one, and we'll be doing our reaction here after the show. It won't be up until later this week, and that is the Cuckoo's Mess versus the Real Rejects. And that is, if I'm not mistaken, the Real Rejects are
Quirky Mercs,
and who are
the Dungeon?
The Dungeon. So the Dungeon versus the Quirky Mercs. Okay,
Dungeon's debut.
That is awesome. So, and that is all because Video Drew was traded to the Dungeon, which is a big thing. And so we'll get to see the Quirky Mercs after not seeing them for a while after the New York Live event. And Kaiser making his debut for 2020, which will be a fun match. Who do you have in that match? I have a feeling I know who you have.
I'm going to go with the Dungeon. I do not know. As I know, the Real Rejects have been around for a while. I'm a little bit unfamiliar with them compared to someone like Video Drew, who I adore, and I think her with Kaiser is genius. I was a little bit upset when she got drafted by Robert Meyer Burnett. Because
you wanted her and Tom together.
Well, not even the fact that obviously everyone wanted them to stay together, but I didn't see her meshing well with Robert Meyer Burnett. Her character in that, it didn't feel like it was going to fit.
Got it.
Her with Kaiser, perfect. Like, I could see that. I feel like he is going to be someone that will work very well as a manager for her.
I'm more so looking to the personality.
Oh, the personality is going to be hilarious.
The way that Kaiser is going to handle her is going to be very funny.
It's going to be hilarious. But for me, manager-wise, I think she is great for him.
Yeah.
I think she's probably looking through it. Maybe even one of, if not the best manager for her. Because I don't see her doing well with the Finstock. I don't see her doing well with the Robert Meyer Burnett. There's even Roxy. Like, I like those. It just doesn't seem like it fits.
The only other manager I would see is Kate.
Yeah.
The only two.
And it's Kate and
it's Kate and Kaiser.
Yeah, and then we would have just had the Looney Bin.
Yeah.
So Rick Hong, her partner, I don't know.
We don't know anything about him at the moment. Right now, he's the other Tom.
Yeah, he's new Tom. We don't know where the Cuckoo's Mess is a brilliant name for them.
Yeah, 1000%.
And so I'm curious to see how this goes. I mean, I am rolling the dice by picking a team with someone that's unknown. Video Drew, we only know a little. I mean, she's only played. She did. I mean, her and Tom were a force, and they stole the hearts of a lot of people last year. Real Rejects, they're not a team to sleep on either. No. Especially when you have Coy managing a team. Coy is a manager, and he is like, he's going to be one of those managers that I feel like you need to watch out for too, moving forward.
He's serious about it.
Yeah, and with the people that he has a team that fits him very well. And that's why I'm not sleeping on Real Rejects.
Well, I'm going to take Real Rejects. Okay. I am. I think it's
always picking opposites.
It's simply based on that. I always do this, but it's simply based on just I know them a little bit more at the moment. And I think we've seen Greg Alba a little bit more in singles, and he's done the free for all and stuff like that. And I'm forgetting the name of his partner.
For which his
Real Rejects.
Partner? It was oh my god.
What is his name? His name is
we got our list. John Humphrey.
John Humphrey, that's what it is. Sorry, and I watched their videos.
I literally have it written down in front of me.
Yeah. So we've seen them before. They haven't done a ton of stuff. We haven't seen a lot of them, but I have a feeling with, like you said, Coy behind them in their corner is going to help, and I think it may become a little bit more serious because it is really like a league this year.
Yeah,
it's more sport oriented.
This match, they're 1-5.
Yeah. So and I think that they do have a chance, and it may just come down to just like we talked about with Paul and Tom. Video Drew and Rick Hong just working together and seeing how they play together and how their knowledge based up. But I do think that Greg Alba and John Humphrey do have a chance to start out the season pretty strong on this one.
Yeah, I have a feeling here. The only thing that worries me with Kaiser is Kaiser's in a very much situation of Robert Meyer Burnett, where we have a lot of people we don't know. But Rick Hong was his 8th pick. Video Drew is a top 4 pick. He's not going to give her someone that is not going to work well with her. Because her personality, you obviously can't just give her anyone.
Yeah.
2, there has to be some type of connection there to work in order to make a good team like that fit. Because you're not going to go get a Video Drew and then put some, I was going to say schmo, but some nobody to be your partner just to have a team. You're not going to just waste that. And it's his debut.
Yeah.
You're not going to put your debut as a manager of someone. I mean, we know him from basically Smets. Smets is his go-to. If you want to be taken seriously, you're going to, in debut, you want to have a good showing. And I think there's more to this than we know.
No, there's definitely a chance that the dungeon could swap up some points here and get themselves into the mix with the top of the charts.
I will say though, Coy's going to need to dig himself out of a hole if he does lose this.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Well, the cool thing here is that you don't lose any points. That's good for them. But we will definitely see what happens. Look, if they do lose, let's be honest here, they have a real chance to pick up points down the road with Bibiani or Meyer because they're both going to be there. They're both going to have a lot of matches.
The only thing that also makes me think is Video Drew is a New York person. So,
well, she's been out here a lot though.
She has been out here,
and she seems like she's committed to doing it.
Absolutely. So it's like if you're going to use her, you want to get those points.
Totally. I think for a player like that, you definitely you make time for those kind of matches. So. All right. Well, any final thoughts on this week, Brian? I mean, stuff that we're previewing this week. We got Cuckoo's Mess, and we have one more to preview, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was
Riley and Janine, which is a big match. Before we get out of here, this is one of the more exciting matches that I'm looking forward to. We have a 2-time champ in Mark Riley, Yodi Riley, picking up his singles run again in 2020. One of the veterans, probably the longest running player in the league at the moment. No, that's Makuga at the moment.
That's so funny.
I know, right? So we have Riley picking it up, and he's going against Janine the Machine. And Janine is on which team?
Usual Suspects,
who already have a match this season. But look, Sam and Janine together is a match that people should be scared of.
Yeah. I mean, which is crazy to think that people should be scared of those two together, because Janine alone is scary on her own how good she is.
We know what Riley is. We know he's part of the FinSock Exchange. We understand that. So we're not counting him out whatsoever. But it's Janine and Sam. And Janine, I said at the beginning of the year, if she picks up her stride like she's been growing each year, she is a singles player that everyone needs to be afraid of.
Yeah,
she really is, and I do think that she's gonna win.
So do I.
I think that she's gonna take it from Riley on this one.
I do too. I feel like she's going to come out with a force this year.
She's excited, man. She loves this game.
Yeah, she was loving the draft when we were there, and she is someone that I feel like in singles you need to be scared of.
Totally, 100%.
And especially with where she is, the team she has in the Usual Suspects, she's going to be someone that if you get put up against, you're going to go, oh crap.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I completely agree.
I mean, not sleeping on Riley at all, but she's someone that, like, for me, if I was competing, I would be scared of.
She's we do the awards over on Apocalypse, and we do that breakout category, and we kind of classify it as like, even if they've been working as someone who's like broken out of the league.
Yeah. And
clearly Janine's been around, she's done a live event and stuff, but I feel like 2020 is going to be like the breakout year for her to be like one of the top contenders in the league, kind of like what the kid did last year.
Yep.
With being on Shazam and then kind of going through and not like kind of like struggling through the tournament, but then he came out in New York and really crushed it. I feel like this is going to be like Janine's year.
Yeah, and I mean it also works. It's beautiful because we need a dominant female right now.
Without Clark and Rachel there,
that's where I was going.
We need a replacement for that. And there's definitely those women, like we have Video Drew, right? Claudia Dolph seems like someone who's going to pick that up a little bit. We have a couple others, but I think Janine's like the one to kind of really pick up the mantle.
I do too. I think she's going to be
she's the most consistent.
Yes, and I think she's going to be a female powerhouse and staple moving forward that personally I would not want to get matched up against, because just her alone knowing what she could do would make me a little nervous and could throw you off a game.
Yeah, and to add to the women, and because I know there's a number of other names I'm forgetting, but someone like Rachel Silvestrini, when we see her pop up,
well, we were screaming at the draft,
right behind her at the draft,
why is
and
no
we
one
could not
taking
believe
her?
that she dropped as far as she did. She is definitely someone to look out for. I mean, obviously Janine and Video Drew. Let's see, we have a couple other names.
I'm going to say Liz Shannon Miller, too.
Liz Shannon Miller is always someone to look out for. She's debuted. She's had a couple matches before, and she's really shown.
Stacey Howard.
Stacey Howard is a staple in the league. Obviously, Laura Kelly in the Star Wars division. Mark Knopic coming back in the Inner Geekdom. Like we mentioned, Claudia Dolph coming in. We don't really know a lot about her.
I keep forgetting she's around, and she's someone to...
Emily Rose Jacobson happening in Atlanta in a few weeks, going up against Alex Damon. There's a lot of good women that could,
Kelly.
Yes, there's a lot of good women that could be taking over the league and really making a name for themselves. And so it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I think Clark and Rachel left some big shoes to fill, but they are well filled with the women in the league.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, any last thoughts now before we get out of here?
No, this week has got good matches that I'm very excited to see. And honestly, that Janine match, I'm excited
for. Yeah, that'll be on Friday, and we'll be able to do a reaction to that. Try and get up as soon as possible. With our schedule, sometimes it's a little bit hard. It's specifically my work schedule.
Clone Wars. Yeah.
Clone Wars comes out, but maybe we can squeeze in the match beforehand, and so we will try our best. It'll either be up on Friday evening or Saturday morning, so look out for that. But for now, this is a certain point of view, guys. So thank you for joining us. If you have not joined us before, thank you for joining us for the first time. If you have, thank you for joining us again. We really, really appreciate it. You guys can find us on Twitter, where we post up all the matches, have a little bit of conversation there as well. And of course, our podcast, the weekly podcast, is up on audio. So Anchor, Apple, Spotify. I think the Apple one is still kind of going through a little bit. There's a process with them as far as verifying and stuff. So that's still in question, but it's happening soon. I promise on that rate. But we are up on Google and everything else like that as well. And so that is Brian. I am Jake. This is A Certain Point of View. Thank you guys for joining us and our preview of this week's matches, as well as the reviews of last week's. Make sure you guys check out our reactions and play along. And of course, comment. We'd love the comments and hear you guys' thoughts on not just the podcast, but the matches and maybe some questions that we can answer on the show. We'd love to hear those from you guys. But until then, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.